Hey guys, Ike here from Mike'sOutdoors.com. I'm here today to show you the best damn venison recipe that I've ever found. Okay, so we're going to do this binging with Babbage style. You guys don't need to see anything but the pan, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a cast iron skillet here. I like cast iron because it gives us the best flavor. Over a medium, slightly medium high heat, we're going to melt a whole stick of butter in that cast iron skillet. The steak itself is, of course, venison, and this is from the hind quarter of one of the does that I shot. And even though it's not backstrap, this is a great way to make something that may be a little bit tougher steak into a really mouth-watering, super moist, and super tender steak. This is from the back quarter of the deer, and this is what you would generally turn into a roast. I've just sectioned it out and cut it up for individual steaks. What I've done is I've basically just patted it dry, and I have coated it down liberally, seasoned it to taste with my steak seasoning, which is only, this is just real basic. It's salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. And basically it is half a cup of salt and pepper and a quarter cup of the onion and garlic powder. So I've liberally coated it with that, and I have got my butter in here melting. Again, like I said, this is a medium-high heat, and you're going to really cook this steak to flavor. If you're like me and you like a lot of char and you want it to medium rare, you may want to turn your fire up just a little bit. But I tried this on a super high heat like I would do a thinner steak, and it didn't work out real well. So if you got a thinner steak, you may be able to turn this heat up. These thicker steaks, like I've got here, which are about an inch thick, tend to do better at a medium-high heat. So we're going to get that butter nice and melted in here and get it nice and ready to go. This is going to produce, not only is it going to infuse this steak with fat, which venison is lacking fat. It has very, very little fat in it, so it's going to infuse it with fat. It's also going to infuse it with a lot of flavor, and it's going to put a really nice caramelized crust on the outside of this. So we've got this to a nice medium heat, and we have all of our melted butter in there, and we're just going to drop that steak in here, and we're going to let it cook on each side for about 5 to 7 minutes on each side, and that's going to get it a nice char on the outside, and it's going to get it to the nice temperature. Now when we flip it over, we're going to set it on that side for about half the time, about 3 to 4 minutes on the opposite side. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to continually coat this thing with butter. While this thing's cooking, it's going to open up, and it's going to really allow this thing to be infused with butter. And you can see in that pan, that butter is nice and deep in there, so it's really going to char the outsides of it really well, and it's really going to infuse this steak, this venison that doesn't have much fat with it. It's going to really infuse it with some fat and make it really nice and moist and tender. So we're going to do that for the next 5 to 6 minutes, maybe as long as 7 to 8 minutes, until we get a nice char on the other side, and then we're going to flip it over and do this side as well. Basting about every minute to 2 minutes on this side. Okay, so now it's been cooking. It took about 8 minutes for this one because this steak is pretty thick. We've been basting it with butter the whole time, and we have a heavy char on the outside of it. So that is our goal. We like a heavy char. If you don't like a heavy char on the outside of your steak, you could have turned it a little bit sooner, maybe reduced your heat a little bit. But that is the whole purpose of this butter is, well, maybe not the whole purpose, but that is one of the purposes of this butter, is to get that nice char on there. The other thing is to get it where it's nice and tender. So we're going to let this side cook for about 3 to 4 minutes, probably going to take upwards of 4 minutes. And at that point, then we're going to char all 4 sides. So once this side's cooked, I'll grab it with my tongs, and I'll stand it up for a couple of minutes and char each side of this so we get a nice finished char all the way around the outside. Okay, so we got a nice char on both sides, and we've reached an internal temperature of 125 degrees. I'm just going to stand this up and char all 4 sides now so we get a good char all the way around. Again, you don't have to do this. This is something that I do because we happen to like our steaks with a heavy char. Some might even say that that's almost burnt. Now, it's almost burnt, but the internal temperature being 125 degrees will make this a nice chewy or crunchy steak on the outside, but it'll give it a really, really nice, moist inside and a really, really good flavor overall. So I'm just going to char all 4 sides of this. It's going to take 30 seconds to a minute on each side. And you can see just after being on there for a little bit, it's not going to raise the internal temperature a whole lot. Okay, so now that we got a nice char on all 4 sides, we're going to put this aside to rest, and we're going to let this rest for about 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm sure on camera these look like 3 burnt husks, but that's the way we like them. A nice heavy char on here and a nice medium to medium rare middle. So on Lindsay's it's got a little less char on it. Mine is what I call the caveman. It is pretty much burnt on the outside and it's going to be rare on the inside. So let's cut into Lindsay's here. You can see very, very moist on here, and we can see it just cuts like butter. Now hers is on the outside edges. It's going to be cooked really nice. So you can see there we got a nice gray to the outside edge here, and as we get in toward the center a little bit more, we get a little bit more of the redness in there. Again, it just cuts. It's just super, super tender with that butter on there, nice and crusty on the outside, and you can see all those juices that you get from this, and you can see again just that nice, it's gray on the edges and it's going to be red in the middle. So we got a nice medium rare on Lindsay's. Now mine, it's going to be a little bit tougher to cut into, but again, this is like like I said, this is like the caveman. It is burnt on the outside and it is going to be rare in the middle. So you can see, even though on the outside edges here, a lot of pink on there and a good char on the outside, and it's just super, super tender and super moist on there. That is a super tender steak, and it's going to have all that great flavor on the outside from the char. It's going to have all that great flavor from the butter on there, and again you can see all this just moisture on this cutting board. Jacob's is cooked a little bit more. It's cooked more to a medium, and it's not quite yet ready to cut into, but these ones here, mine and Lindsay, you can see are super tender and cut really nice. And let's just see how hard that is. It's super, super easy to tear apart, and it's just going to be full of flavor. It's really moist and really, really good flavor. If you don't like yours cooked that rare, absolutely fine. You can go with more of a medium rare or a medium like we do Jacob. Again, no matter how you do this with the butter on here, it's going to have a heavy char, but you can really moderate it, and you can really watch it, and you can really get it dialed into what you want. But the tenderness and the flavor with that butter is just outstanding, and that's what we're shooting for with this venison, is to get it tender, because it has so much flavor to it, but it's just always tough because it lacks in fat, and that butter really infuses it with fat. So this is a really good way of making it nice and tender and really, really flavorful, and still really getting that good venison taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix myself a plate, pour myself a beer, and get myself set down and eat some dinner. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and remember, I'm not a chef. I usually do most of my meat on the barbecue grill. This is just one I like to do steaks, and that's about it. So there's definitely room for improvement. If you have suggestions, please put those in the comments below. I would love to read those suggestions and see what you guys have to say and see how you cook your venison. This is how I cook mine, and this is my favorite way to cook it, and it is the best damn venison recipe that I personally know. So appreciate you guys watching these videos. Appreciate it if you leave me a comment down in the comment section below, and please follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook under IkesOutdoors.com. Appreciate you guys watching.